My name is Ayesha Mattu. I'm a writer, editor, mother, Muslim. I live in San Francisco with my husband Randy and my son, who is 3 years old, Rumi. So the book I'm currently working on is an anthology called Salaam, Love, Muslim Men on Love, Sex, and Intimacy, and it will be released Valentine's Day 2014 by Beacon Press. Last year, I edited and also had a piece featured in Love, Inshallah, The Secret Love Lives of American Muslim Women. And one of the questions that we kept getting from the men was, when are you going to feature our stories? So you sent me RFs, right? Okay, and hopefully we should be hearing back from the publisher early next week. To me, love and relationships is the reason we're here. It's the quintessential human experience. And that word is actually not associated with Muslims. If you ask someone who's not a part of the faith, do Muslims love? Many people would say no. And yet, one of the 99 names of God in the Muslim tradition is Al-Wadud, which means the loving. And, the poet of love, Rumi, Hafiz, Rabi al-Adawi, are part of our tradition. And this is something that we want to share as our heritage with the wider interfaith community. The way this book translates into my life is very much lived through my marriage to Randy. We talk a lot about what does it mean to be complementary, how do we support each other's values and ambitions. Randy is very much hands-on in the kitchen, hands-on with every aspect of the home. So I asked Randy to submit an essay to this anthology that I'm working on, Muslim Men's Search for Love. Just this idea that there's a national and a global conversation happening around what does it mean to be a man. And we want to be at the table saying this is also something to consider, that being softer and nurturing and creating and loving, these are all strengths. So this has given me a whole insight into issue around the pregnancy.
Mm-hmm. Part of the reason this needs to be told is because young men often don't think about these things. It's like, what? We're married. But I think it's great for this book to be there so that people do start to see men in that light. Dredges up a lot of...
Yeah, it's cathartic, but it also makes you relive it.
Yeah.
We find ways of complementing each other's spiritual life as well. Randy and I met about 11 years ago, shortly after 9/11. At that time, he was agnostic. He had been baptized in the Albanian Orthodox Church. And after a period of study, he decided to become Muslim, and we've shared that faith. So one of the most profound experiences I had with Randy was doing a labyrinth walk together. We were walking on Nob Hill in San Francisco and saw Grace Church, and they have a labyrinth both inside the church and outside the church. I stepped into the labyrinth first and began walking its meandering path, and Randy joined a few minutes later. I realized that at times we were walking side by side, and then at other times he was on one end of the labyrinth and I was on the opposite end, so it looked like we were headed in completely different directions, and yet we were on the same path. There are times when Randy might be at a much more involved spiritual state, and so he is a force that sort of helps me think more about faith, and there might be other points where the roles are reversed and I pull more on him. we both really rely on each other, both as teachers and students, I would say. A couple of minutes after I stepped into the center, Randy stepped in and I felt his arms around me, and I just had this inkling of the maze of life, and that it's not random, that every step is meaningful and full of purpose and beauty, no matter if at some point death separates us, that it's only a heartbeat before we will be together again. The search for love is universal. When we tell our stories, we move from being strangers to becoming friends and family. One of my main hopes for these books is that we recognize our shared humanity and desires.